The rain was light but steady, soaking the pavement and painting reflections of traffic lights across the wet streets. Jason Gray adjusted the collar of his coat and picked up his pace, avoiding puddles with the precision of a man who had walked these sidewalks for years. His black umbrella hovered above him like a barrier, separating him from the world. His Bluetooth earpiece buzzed with voices, urgent, demanding, hollow. "Yes, tell them I'll call back before lunch," he snapped into the mic. "And make sure they forward the report before noon. I want to see the figures myself." He ended the call with a flick and exhaled sharply. Another deal, another meeting, another climb up a ladder he wasn't even sure he wanted anymore. As he approached the revolving doors of the Cromwell and Stein building, a gentle tug at his coat stopped him mid-stride. Startled, Jason turned and looked down. A little girl, no taller than his waist, stood holding onto the hem of his coat. She wore a pink dress with small cartoon cupcakes scattered across it, a bit too large for her frame and wrinkled from use. Her ponytail was uneven, tied with a sparkly rubber band that had lost most of its shine. Her sneakers were soaked, the toes scuffed, but she smiled brightly as if none of it mattered. "Mister," she said softly, but with surprising confidence. "Can I give you this?" Jason blinked, completely caught off guard. He looked around for a parent, for a guardian, for someone responsible for this bold little stranger. She extended a card toward him. It was made from folded construction paper, the kind that frayed at the edges. The front had a bright red heart colored in with crayon, and beneath it, words were scrawled in large, uneven handwriting. "My birthday, you're invited." What is this?" Jason asked, taking it gently. "It's my birthday tomorrow," the girl explained, her voice filled with hope. "And my mommy's sick, but she said she'll still smile if someone comes to celebrate. So I'm asking people." Jason knelt down, frowning. "But, why me?" "Because you looked really sad this morning," she said, tilting her head. "You dropped your coffee and stared at the sidewalk like it had bad news." Jason blinked. That had happened, at exactly 7:48 a.m., just before his first call. He hadn't realized anyone noticed, much less a child. "My mommy says sad people need cake more than happy people," she added, hugging the card to her chest before offering it again. Jason finally took it, staring at the child with an unreadable expression. He opened the card carefully. Inside was more crayon art. A lopsided birthday cake, 5 stick figures with party hats, and a smiling sun. At the bottom, the address was scribbled, Willow Street. A date, a time. "Who are you, exactly?" he asked, almost amused. "I'm Lila," she grinned, "and I'm turning 7. Just then, Jason noticed a woman sitting under the nearby bus shelter. She wore a headscarf and medical mask, and her shoulders sagged with visible fatigue. Her thin frame and pale skin were signs he couldn't miss. She had an oxygen tank beside her and a blanket draped across her lap. When she saw Jason looking, she smiled with her eyes and gave a small wave. "That's my mommy," Lila said proudly. "She's still coming to my party, even if she has to sit in a chair all day." Jason glanced between the child and her mother. He didn't know what to say. "I know you're probably super busy," Lila added, sensing his hesitation. "But mommy says making someone smile is more important than making money, just for one day." Jason chuckled under his breath, though something tight twisted in his chest. "Your mommy sounds wise." "She is," Lila nodded. "Even if she's tired all the time." The little girl beamed one last time, then ran back to her mother, skipping through puddles with childish joy. Jason stood rooted in place, card in hand, water dripping off the edge of his umbrella. His office building was right there, waiting with more meetings, more calls, more deals. But something about the encounter clung to him like the rain. He opened the card again and read the shaky handwriting once more. "Please come. Mommy will smile." The simplicity of it struck him harder than it should have. He slipped the card into the inner pocket of his coat and walked into the building, but his steps felt heavier, like he had just been handed something far more valuable than any stock portfolio. And for the first time in months, Jason Gray found himself wondering, not about profits or contracts, but about a little girl named Lila, and a birthday that just might meet him. The next day, the sun broke through the clouds, and a soft breeze brushed through the city. Jason Gray stood at the corner of Willow Street, holding a carefully wrapped gift in a sleek bag that looked out of place against the backdrop of aging brick homes and rusted fences. He felt awkward in jeans and a pullover, so unlike the crisp suits he wore daily. For a moment, he considered turning back. But then he remembered the girl's eyes, her innocent hope, and her simple words. "Mommy will smile if you come." With a quiet breath, he stepped up onto the creaky wooden porch and rang the doorbell. Laughter echoed faintly from inside. The sound startled him. It was so pure. The door swung open, and there she was, Lila, in the same wrinkled cupcake dress, a birthday tiara now sitting crookedly on her head. Her eyes widened. "You came," she squealed, throwing her arms around his legs before he could respond. Jason laughed, steadying himself. "I said I would, didn't I? You brought a gift," she pointed out, her voice full of wonder as she tugged at his hand, urging him inside. "Come meet everyone." The living room was small but bursting with color, streamers, hand-drawn posters, and paper crowns for every child. The scent of freshly baked vanilla cupcakes lingered in the air, mixed with laughter, shouting, and music from a cheap Bluetooth speaker. There were about 10 kids, maybe more, running in circles, playing games with balloons, eating cake with sticky fingers. It wasn't a grand affair. But it was joyful, honest, real. Jason stood frozen in the middle of it all, unsure where to place himself. He wasn't used to this kind of chaos. Or warmth. Then he saw her, Lila's mother, sitting in a cushioned recliner near the window. She wore a soft head wrap and an oversized sweater, and though she looked pale and tired, her face glowed with gentle pride. Jason walked over slowly, unsure how to greet her. "You must be Jason," she said first, her voice raspy but kind. "I recognize the suit energy, even if you're in jeans today." Jason chuckled softly. "Guilty. I didn't want to show up in a tie. I'm Elaine, Lila's mom." She extended her hand, and Jason shook it gently, afraid to squeeze too hard. "She's been talking about you all morning," Elaine added, her eyes twinkling. "Said she invited a sad man who needed a cupcake." Jason laughed, then lowered his voice. "I think she might be right." Elaine nodded knowingly. She has a gift for spotting people who need a little love. Even strangers. They sat in a moment of companionable silence, watching the kids dance to some silly song about pizza. Jason hesitated. She said, "You're not well." Elaine smiled faintly. "Stage 4 lung cancer. It's been a tough year. But today's not about that." She looked toward Lila, who was now blowing out candles with the help of 2 friends. "Today's about making memories, even if I'm too weak to play tag." Jason felt something shift in his chest. He didn't know how to respond, so he didn't try to. Instead, he watched, really watched. The cupcakes were unevenly frosted. The party hats were mismatched. But Lila's laughter, bright and full, echoed like sunlight through the room. Later, a little boy challenged Jason to musical chairs. He declined at first. Then he found himself in the game, bumping into toddlers, laughing harder than he had in years. One girl spilled fruit punch on his shirt. Another wrapped a streamer around his arm and declared him King Cupcake. And Jason didn't mind. He didn't check his phone. Didn't think about deadlines. Didn't worry about clients or numbers. Instead, he let himself belong to something real, something human. When the cake was nearly gone and the kids were tiring, he found himself back near Elaine. "She had a good day," he said quietly. "She did," Elaine agreed. "And so did you, I think." Jason looked at her, then nodded. "You're right, I forgot what this felt like." Elaine smiled. "Joy doesn't come from big things, Jason. It comes from moments. Just like this." He looked around at the handmade decorations, the simple gifts, the smiling children, and the woman, sick but strong, who had made it all happen. And for the first time in a long time, Jason Gray didn't feel like a man on the outside of life. He felt like he'd just been invited in. When Jason stepped out onto the porch that evening, the sky was painted in soft hues of orange and lavender. The laughter from the party still echoed faintly behind him, mingling with the warm breeze that rustled the leaves of the old trees lining Willow Street. In his coat pocket, the folded invitation was still there, creased and smudged, but somehow more valuable than any business card he'd ever carried. He paused on the steps, turning back to look at the little house one more time. It wasn't grand or perfect, but something inside those walls had shifted something inside him. It wasn't about cake or balloons or silly games. It was about the courage of a little girl who believed in kindness. It was about a mother who chose joy, even in the face of pain. And it was about a man who had almost forgotten what it meant to be present, to be part of something real, even if just for one afternoon. As Jason walked away, he didn't feel like the same man who had stood under the cold rain, barking into his phone, living from one deal to the next. He felt lighter, and when his phone buzzed with another meeting reminder, he looked at it, then turned it off. He had already made the most important appointment of his life, and he planned to keep showing up for it. Because sometimes, healing doesn't come from medicine or money. Sometimes, it comes from a crayon card, a child's invitation. And the choice to say yes.